Ever found yourself in a situation that seemed too bizarre to be just a chance occurrence? Welcome, history enthusiasts and curious minds. Today, we're embarking on a journey into the world of coincidences. These are the enigmatic moments in life when the threads of existence weave themselves into patterns too intricate, too peculiar to be mere products of chance. They leave us baffled, intrigued, and often questioning the very fabric of reality. They're the anomalies that make us wonder if there's a grand puppeteer pulling the strings of fate, or if life is indeed a random dance of particles. Imagine finding your doppelganger in a painting from the 16th century, or discovering that two world leaders share eerily similar life stories. These are not figments of fiction, but real events that have occurred in our shared history. Prepare to dive into the realm of the unexplained as we explore some of history's most curious coincidences. Our first stop on this journey is the infamous Titanic disaster, with a twist you might not have heard of before. The Titanic, the majestic ship deemed unsinkable, met a tragic end on her maiden voyage in April of 1912. Over 1,500 lives were lost to the icy waters of the North Atlantic, a catastrophe that shook the world. Yet what if I told you that this disaster was eerily predicted 14 years prior? In 1898, Morgan Robertson penned a novel titled Futility. The story centered around a colossal ocean liner named the Titan, touted as unsinkable, and yet it met its doom on a cold April night after striking an iceberg. The similarities don't end there. Both the fictional Titan and the real Titanic were short on lifeboats, and both had similar dimensions and speeds. The Titan, like the Titanic, was also on its maiden voyage, crossing the Atlantic. Now you might be wondering, was this a case of an uncanny prediction or a chilling coincidence? Skeptics would argue that the similarities between the two tragedies were merely coincidental. After all, large ships were often described as unsinkable in those days, and icebergs were known hazards in the North Atlantic. Yet, others ponder the eerie precision of the coincidence. How could Robertson have predicted not just the disaster, but the strikingly specific details that paralleled the Titanic's fate? Was it a case of life imitating art, or was it a hint of some hidden pattern in the universe, a glimpse into the inexplicable realm of coincidence? The Titanic tragedy and its uncanny prediction in the novel Futility remain one of history's most curious coincidences, a chilling reminder of the unpredictability of life. It's a story that continues to captivate us over a century later, a testament to the enduring allure of the unexplained. An uncanny prediction or a chilling coincidence, you decide. Next, we delve into American history, where a supposed curse and a string of presidential deaths create a peculiar pattern. This is the story of the Curse of Tecumseh, a tale as intriguing as it is chilling. The origins of the curse date back to the early 19th century during the time of American expansion. Tecumseh, a Native American Shawnee chief, was known for his efforts to resist this expansion. However, his resistance was met with fierce opposition, particularly from William Henry Harrison, who later became the 9th President of the United States. Legend has it that Tecumseh, infuriated by the loss of his lands, laid a curse on Harrison and all future American presidents elected in a year ending in 0. This curse was said to cause their death while in office. Eerily enough, for over a century, every president elected in such a year did indeed die in office. This included Harrison himself, who died of pneumonia just a month into his term. Abraham Lincoln, elected in 1860, was assassinated during his second term. James Garfield, elected in 1880, was fatally shot less than a year into his presidency. The list goes on, with the victims including William McKinley, Warren Harding, Franklin Roosevelt, and John F. Kennedy, all sharing the same fate. It wasn't until Ronald Reagan, elected in 1980, that this pattern was broken. Despite an assassination attempt, Reagan survived his presidency. Some believe that this marked the end of the Curse of Tecumseh, while others argue that it merely lay dormant. What makes this string of presidential deaths particularly intriguing is not just the pattern, but the theories that surround it. Some see it as proof of Tecumseh's curse, while others view it as a chilling coincidence. Statisticians might argue about the probability of such an event occurring by chance, while historians might delve into the circumstances of each death. Is it a macabre coincidence or the result of a genuine curse? The mystery remains. From presidents to assassinations, our next coincidence draws eerie parallels between two beloved leaders. dive into the uncanny similarities between the lives and untimely deaths of Presidents Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Both figures, Lincoln and Kennedy, were charismatic leaders who left an indelible mark on American history. But their stories share more than just this. Let's start with the basics. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846, while Kennedy took office over a century later in 1946. Fast forward 14 years and both men were elected president, Lincoln in 1860 and Kennedy in 1960. Their presidencies were marked by civil rights struggles and monumental change, but it's their tragic ends that are most strikingly parallel. Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, a known Southern sympathizer, in Ford's Theater. Kennedy met a similar fate, assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald in Dallas, Texas. Both presidents were shot in the head on a Friday and died beside their wives. The assassins themselves share eerie parallels. Both Booth and Oswald were born in the 9th year of their respective decades and met violent ends shortly after their heinous acts. Booth was killed in a standoff with authorities, while Oswald was shot by nightclub owner Jack Ruby. Even the successors to Lincoln and Kennedy share similarities. Vice Presidents Andrew Johnson and Lyndon B. Johnson share not only a surname but also were Southern Democrats, and both were born in the 8th year of their respective decades. The list goes on, filled with uncanny parallels that defy explanation. From their personal lives to their professional careers and untimely deaths, the lives of Lincoln and Kennedy are intertwined in ways that baffle historians and conspiracy theorists alike. History repeating itself or mere chance? It's a question that continues to baffle. Our next coincidence takes us to the heart of Russia, where a mystic monk predicted his own death. Today, we delve into the life of Grigory Rasputin, the infamous Russian mystic and spiritual advisor to the Romanov dynasty in the early 20th century. Rasputin was no ordinary monk. He was believed to possess healing powers and was even credited with saving the life of Tsarevich Alexei, the only son of Tsar Nicholas II, who suffered from hemophilia. His influence over the royal family earned him many enemies, leading to numerous attempts on his life. But here's where the story takes an eerie turn. Shortly before his death, Rasputin wrote a letter to the Tsar, in which he eerily predicted his own murder. He warned that if he were killed by government officials, the entire royal family would be killed by the Russian people. The prophecy was uncanny in its accuracy. Rasputin was indeed murdered by nobles, and the royal family was executed by the Bolsheviks just 18 months later. The circumstances surrounding Rasputin's death only add to the mystery. His assassins claimed to have poisoned, shot, and finally drowned him. Yet when his body was discovered under the icy Neva River, there were reports that water was found in his lungs, suggesting he was still alive when submerged. Was Rasputin's death a self-fulfilling prophecy? Did his prediction somehow influence the course of events, leading his enemies to fulfill his prophecy? Or was it all just an eerie coincidence, a twist of fate that defies logical explanation? Whatever the case, the story of Rasputin's death has intrigued historians for over a century, with many debating whether it was a simple case of political assassination or a prophetic coincidence that somehow foresaw the tragic end of the Romanov dynasty. A self-fulfilling prophecy or another inexplicable coincidence? The debate rages on. As we navigate through the annals of history, we encounter many such mysteries, stories that challenge our understanding of reality and force us to question the very nature of coincidence. As we've seen, history is riddled with curious coincidences. But could some of them be more than just chance? The line between coincidence and conspiracy is often blurred, and the question remains, are these just random happenings, or are they carefully orchestrated events? Let's consider the Lincoln-Kennedy parallels. Some argue that the similarities are far too many to be mere coincidence. Both presidents were elected exactly 100 years apart, both were assassinated on a Friday, and both were succeeded by vice presidents named Johnson. Coincidence or conspiracy? Then there's the mystery surrounding the sinking of the Titanic. Some theorists suggest that the ship was intentionally sunk for insurance money. They point to the fact that some of the wealthiest people in the world canceled their trips at the last minute. A simple twist of fate or a well-planned conspiracy? Let's not forget the curse of Tecumseh. Every president elected in a year ending with 0 from 1840 to 1960 died in office. A mere coincidence or an actual curse? Some conspiracy theorists believe it's the latter. The arguments against these conspiracy theories are equally compelling. Statisticians argue that with the vast number of events in human history, it's inevitable that some will appear to be connected. It's simply a matter of probabilities. Psychologists also weigh in, explaining that humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We're wired to find connections, even when they don't exist. It's our way of making sense of the world around us. Ultimately, the question of coincidence versus conspiracy is subjective and often depends on one's worldview. It's a question that has fascinated historians, statisticians, psychologists, and the general public alike. Whether you believe in conspiracies or not, these coincidences certainly make history even more fascinating. As we wrap up this journey through history's most curious coincidences, let's take a moment to reflect. We've traversed the chilling waters of the Titanic tragedy, a maritime disaster eerily predicted in fiction. We've delved into the ominous curse of Tecumseh, a pattern of presidential deaths that defies simple explanation. On our journey, we've traveled through time, exploring the uncanny parallels between the lives of Lincoln and Kennedy, two leaders from different centuries, yet with lives intertwined by a web of coincidences. We've also stepped into the enigmatic world of the mysterious monk, an individual who seemingly cheated death not once but multiple times. These tales, each an enigma in its own right, invite us to question and ponder. They challenge our understanding of probability and randomness, nudging us to wonder whether there's more to these events than mere chance. We've looked at the role of statistics and probabilities, examined the psychological and cultural factors at play, and even pondered the possibility of conspiracy theories. While these historical coincidences might remain unexplained, they continue to intrigue us, to captivate our imaginations, and to make us question our understanding of the world. They remind us that while we may strive to make sense of the world around us, there are always mysteries that elude our grasp, events that defy our comprehension. And so, as we conclude, we invite you to consider these curious coincidences. Let them inspire you to question, to explore, and to wonder. Perhaps you'll find your own uncanny parallels, your own inexplicable coincidences in the world around you. And who knows, you might even discover a new mystery that history has yet to unravel. Remember, history is filled with the unexplained. So keep questioning, keep exploring, and who knows what you might uncover next.